Hey y'all, welcome back to our very bookish channel, and welcome to our ninth Freida McFadden reading blog. So in this vlog, we are going to be reading The Tenant because we got our hands on an arc of The Tenant. So we are so very excited and so very thankful and grateful to Edelweiss and the publishers for giving us access to these Freida McFadden digital galleys. We obviously love reading arcs and galleys on this channel, reviewing them for y'all so you know what books are coming out, if we liked them or didn't like them. And y'all know we love Freida. So Jen is in a Facebook group and found out that there's a new book coming out this year called The Tenant. I went on Edelweiss and immediately added it to my watch list and kept checking back for copies to come available. And when they did, I jumped on it and got my copy, and I'm so very excited. In fact, I cheated a little bit because I've already started reading the book. As soon as I got my hands on my copy, I started reading. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. But I am also going to be reading Do You Remember by Freida McFadden in this vlog. Since we read the book so fast, we like to do more than one Freida book for the vlog. So we're both going to be reading The Tenant, and then I'm going to be reading Do You Remember, and Jen is going to pick another book to read. I think she's going to read one by one because I don't think Jen has read that book yet, but we will have to kind of see what Jen picks. First, we're going to be starting with The Tenant.
So Amanda, she has been checking Edelweiss, I believe every day, maybe multiple times a day. I'm not as good about checking, to be honest. And she saw that The Tenant by Freida was on there. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited. When she texted and said that it was on there, I freaked out, obviously, even though I'm not even feeling that well today. I'm scared I'm getting sick, but that perked me up right away. And of course, I already started it. I'm only 2 chapters in. I couldn't even stop to record because I was so excited. This doesn't even go on sale until May 6th. And part of me gets a little depressed when we do get them early because that'll just be one less book early in the year that we won't be able to look forward to. But I can't stop myself from reading it. I don't want to stop myself from reading it and have delayed gratification because I'm sure she'll have something coming out in the fall. She tends to write pretty quickly. And one other thing I wanted to show that I thought was really funny, she has a dedication at the front of the book that says, "For my first roommate who would set her alarm for 3 a.m. to wake up and study and then put it on snooze twice. I forgive you." So I'm not sure what this book is about. I know a lot of fans get excited as soon as they see part 1 and part 2 and part 3 in her books. So it starts as part 1. Blake is a male first narrator, and all you know is that he's in this huge building in New York, and he mentions Ohio, which I think is pretty cool. He grew up in Ohio and Cleveland, and I did also live in Cleveland. That's how I met Amanda years ago, and now I am further south near Dayton, Ohio. But it just seems to be about a corporate person, and I'm not sure what this book is about. And that's exactly how I love going into Freida books. I don't always like to know much about the books as I'm going in. And for this one, I probably read it at some point, what it was about. But at this moment, I don't remember, so I'm just going into it blind, which is my favorite way to go into most books, especially Freida, because the twists will just end up happening that much better. So come along for the journey of a brand new arc, which is advanced reading copy. We get a chance to read this on Edelweiss, and I'm super excited. We're also going to be reading another Freida book, each of us. She is reading Do You Remember? I already read that one. and I am reading one by one, and she already read that one. I just haven't read it yet. Come along as we read a new, very brand new, not even out to the public yet, and another Freida book. I'm super excited. I'll be back with thoughts.
So I mentioned I already started reading the book, so I'm just gonna kind of give you a brief overview of what the book is about. No spoilers. There are going to be no spoilers for the Tenant in this video, but I want to get you up to date on what the book is about a little bit and how I'm feeling about it so far. I'm on chapter 12, which is page 81 or 22% of the way into the book. So far in the book, you're following the point of view of a man, and he has climbed the corporate ladder in New York City. He has secured a very high-paying job, and he has a fiance that he bought a nice big ring for, and they just purchased a brownstone in New York City, which is obviously very expensive, but it's okay because he has this nice job. She also works but doesn't make quite as much money as he does, and unfortunately for him, there is some kind of miscommunication, and he gets fired. So he goes home, and after a couple of months of being unemployed, him and his fiance decide to make up some of the difference and allow them to keep this nice brownstone that they purchased. They decide to rent out their room and help cover some of the costs of their mortgage. And this is supposed to just be temporary until he can find another job. But they do all these interviews, and the people are just weird and not a good fit for the couple. And so they find, you're following his point of view. So everything so far for me has been his point of view, and he just doesn't like any of the people. He doesn't actually like the idea of renting out a room. That was mostly his fiance's idea, but he reluctantly agrees to it because he doesn't want to lose the home. So they go through all of these interviews with people that they don't like, and then finally they find a woman that seems normal, and they decide to let her rent the room from them, and things are getting kind of weird. That's all I'm gonna say about it. That's all that I want to give you about this book. From here on out, I'm just going to be giving you my feelings about the book, and maybe if there's some exciting parts or some of my reactions to the book as I'm reading. But you're all caught up now, and I am going to update you guys when I have some more of the book read and if I have any more thoughts about what's going on.
All right, 100-page update. Obviously, I'm sucked completely in. I always get like this with Freida, but it's starting to get to the point, and I feel like she does this on purpose, where you keep getting the same situation again and again and again, and you know there's more to the story, and you kind of just want to know what's really going on. I remember feeling this very clearly in The Housemaid, the first book I read by her, and being shocked by what was happening. And not that I knew there was something else really going on, I just wanted like a resolution to what was going on because it was so crazy. So anyway, for this, The Tenant, you find out fairly early, I want to say chapter 4, as to why they end up having to get a tenant in where they live. And the process of choosing the tenant is both funny, and I have a feeling some of that's going to come back later in terms of what's really going on. I know the situation with which they had to get a tenant. I have a huge feeling that's gonna be a reason why everything is happening now that's happening. And I'm being evasive because I don't want to ruin it for people. I don't want to say exactly what was going on because I don't want to do these vlogs and completely ruin the book. I feel like we do these just for like reactions and some small details, some small insights into what the book is about. But I can't wait to see why or what's really going on behind the scenes. I have a feeling there's more to the story with Blake, and we're just seeing his viewpoint right now. And I have a feeling we're going to get some backstory as to what's really going on with him and another viewpoint maybe, because we're still in part 1. I know there's a part 2 coming. And infamously, as soon as part 2 is shown, you know it's going to get good. You just know it's going to get good. All right, I'll be back with more updates.
An update for you. And also, Jen and I talked about bookish resolutions. And last year in January, we posted a bookish resolutions video. This year, I don't think we can fit it into our schedule to do a whole separate video, so we decided we would just talk a little bit about, you know, a summary of last year and kind of what we want to do moving forward this year in this Freida vlog. So I do have an update for you with the books, but first I kind of want to talk about what all I did last year. So last year, according to Goodreads, I had read 101 books. And that's a little bit less than 2023. In 2023, I read 111. So it's 10 books less in 2023. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is I haven't been able to really get into audiobooks. And I'm not a big audiobook listener anyways, but I feel like this past year I haven't really been able to listen to audiobooks and pay attention to them as much when I'm cleaning or doing my housework or riding in the car. So I really didn't listen to, you know, many audiobooks. Another thing is I had a family emergency in May, which obviously took my mind off of reading, and I had to prioritize my family. And then I had a terrible book slump all summer. So at the end of June, I got into this book slump, and it wasn't like I stopped reading books, but I really stopped getting excited about reading books and really enjoying the books that I did read. It wasn't like I hated the books. It wasn't like they, you know, they were terrible books. I just wasn't feeling them. I don't know if I was just, you know, not reading books that I wanted to mood read and reading more books for vlogs and channel, or what was going on, but I just had a slump. So I think that is one reason why I have fewer books this year than in 2023. Moving forward in 2025, I'm keeping my Goodreads goal at 100 books. I hope to do a little bit more, but I think 100 books is challenging enough for me that it's not easy, but it also, you know, gives me some little bit of grace. So I'm keeping my goal at 100 books. Also in 2025, I want to continue working on DNFing books. I really needed DNF books. I think that one reason maybe I got in a slump at the end of June is I wasn't DNFing books that I wasn't really enjoying. And lately I have been reading books that I've really enjoyed. I just got done reading Lightfall, and because I had the ARC, that book is coming out January 14th, I believe. And I really loved that book. It's really got me more excited into reading, and I've just read some really good books, and I'm excited again about reading, but I want to keep this going. I don't want to get in another slump. Y'all may see DNFs, okay, in videos, because that's something that I need to work on. And other than that, that's really it. I want to really read more ARCs. I think this is the same thing that I said in my last video, but I want to read more ARCs, and I want to do more ARC reviews for you. I really want that to be my focus. I'm here at my Walmart for my pickup, so we're gonna pause just for a second and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've checked in and we can just chat a little bit more while I'm waiting. But basically, I just want to keep working on DNFs, and I want to read more ARCs. As far as the ARCs go, I really love doing ARC reviews. I love doing those short little videos on individual books. I like hyping up the books that we've enjoyed for their release date. So I'm going to focus on DNFing and trying to read more ARCs. Although I really am proud of the amount of ARC reviews Jen and I put out this year. I didn't count them up, but we did a lot of ARC reviews in 2024. And I think that we need to keep putting those out and getting and some of the comments, like a lot of the comments we get are on our ARC reviews where people have questions about the book or people want to mention something about the book. So I want to keep doing the ARC reviews for the channel. So that being said, if there are books coming out you're extremely curious about and it is in, you know, our wheelhouse of genres, then, you know, drop a comment sometime or send us an email, and if we can get the ARCs, maybe we will read them and do a review. Now, as far as reading updates go, I am on chapter 26, which is page 153 of 370, and So far, the book is kind of in that middle stage where there's not really a lot of story progression. There's just a lot of building, I guess. You're building these tensions and building relationships between the characters. So I had mentioned that it's the man's point of view, and they have this tenant living with them now, and he's not really excited about it. He's not really getting along with her, and it's just a lot of that back and forth going on right now. So we're kind of in the lull part, the middle part of the book, although I'm still extremely entertained and am looking forward to getting back to reading this when I get a chance. Okay, so I just completed my pickup, and one thing I love about the pickup is they will put the dog food in my car for me, because y'all know I have dogs and we have to buy the big 50-pound bags of dog food, and it's just nice not to have to load that into my car. Anyways, I'm now going to Panera, one of my favorite places to sit and drink coffee and edit videos, because I am currently editing our January TBR, which is definitely going to be out before this comes out. So if you haven't checked out our January TBR, go ahead and check it out. January is a really exciting month for me in particular, so I'm really excited to get that done and get that posted. Probably, hopefully tomorrow that video will be posted. So I will talk to y'all later if I get some more reading done and have some more updates.
I am experiencing a snow day. As you can see, I'll show you guys here. We got a lot of snow.
Snowflakes are whispering secrets so clear, dancing like ghosts in the midnight so near. Frozen confessions in the chill of the air, mysteries tangled in the frost everywhere. Hooded in sweaters beneath the moon's glow, footprints like echoes in the silver.
There's no way I'm going out today. There's a level 2 emergency going on, but it's the perfect time to read. I have read a lot more since I last checked in, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't learned yet. Freida has not told us yet what's really going on, and a fair amount of pages have happened, and things are increasingly getting worse for Blake. I hope that's not considered a spoiler. But we don't know yet what's really going on. And I know there has to be something else going on. So I'm going to read some more. I'm probably going to end up finishing it because I have like 130 pages left. And Freida's books go so freaking fast. I will check in. But yeah, I know a plot twist is coming. I know it's coming. But I love snow days. So I'm going to go read.
All right, guys. I'm on chapter 53. Which is page 285 of 370. So I still have about 100 pages to go. But we have made it through the first major twist in the story. And I had suspicions. I didn't see it coming, but I had suspicions about these two characters in the book. And let's just say I knew something was going on that didn't add up. And this twist kind of validates what I was thinking, even though I didn't predict the twist. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Like, I didn't predict the twist, but it's starting to line up to some of the suspicions I've been having. So, we have switch point of views in the book. I love how Freida will have large chunks of one point of view and then a twist and then a large chunk of another point of view. I actually really like that. I'm not a fan of switching POVs in books usually. Obviously, I've said that 100 million times on this channel, like literally. But y'all are probably tired of hearing that. But I do like it in the Freida books when there's a twist and then you get another point of view, because it just sort of furthers the twist. It kind of makes the twist more impactful, if that makes sense. And I really, really sucked in. I really like it. This is a very solid Freida book. I mean, all of Freida's books are solids, but so far I feel like this is probably a middle notch Freida book. It's not as epic so far. I mean, I still have 100 pages to go, so y'all, you don't know. It could be best book, Freida book I've ever read before once I get to the end. But so far, I feel like it's been a sort of middle of the road Freida book. I do feel like it's very different from The Crash and the other books she's been putting out. I love the way Freida changes little things about the books to keep reinventing herself. I said this with The Crash, and The Crash is truly a very, very different book than any of the other Freida books I've read, but she's getting kind of back, like she took this wild twist with The Crash, made a sort of different type of book, it feels like, and then she's sort of venturing back to where she started from with the thrillers with this book, and I'm really liking it. I don't think Freida could write something that I just really hate. I just don't at this point. I've read almost all her books and I'm really enjoying it so far. And that's really all my thoughts on it. I'm not giving away any more of the plot since this book is an arc and it's going to be coming out later this year. But I just want y'all to know this is a solid domestic thriller that I have been sucked into. Still have 100 more pages, but I will check back in with you with final thoughts.
Checking in briefly to say I finally got to part 2, and I feel it was, to me, kind of obvious what the twist, I guess you would call it. We don't know the full story yet, as usual. But the first twist, I kind of had a feeling was going to happen. I don't know if I would call it predictable. Sometimes when you're reading Freida so much, you kind of know what could be happening. So I don't know if someone was reading this one for the first time and had not read Freida, if they would necessarily guess it. But I feel this was, if you've read Freida, it was kind of, it wasn't a huge plot twist, I feel like, for Freida readers. I think there's probably a lot more to this story as we're going into part 2. Maybe there'll be a part 3, so I will check back. And it's going so fast, I know I'm gonna finish like very shortly.
All right, y'all, I finished The Tenant, and I just think this book is true Freida form and fashion. I liked the way that Freida, every book, I don't want to say every book, but almost all of Freida's books, the twists are coming all the way until the very end of the book. In a lot of her books, if not all her books, there are twists all the way in the epilogue. And I just really like that because I'm not usually a fan of epilogues. When the book is over, I just ready for it to be over. I don't want to have to also read another epilogue, taking place 10 years later. But Freida does a fantastic job with the epilogues. She keeps the twist coming even in the epilogue, so it makes me want to read the epilogue. And I just love that. This book was no different. There is a twist at the very, very end. My only complaint about the book is, like I kind of mentioned, I felt like it got a little repetitive and slowed down the pacing towards the middle of the book a little bit. But I think that's just a me thing. I think that's just me personally, because I just really like fast-paced books that keep my interest and keep everything moving along very fast. So I think that was just me. I don't think that's going to be a sticking point with a lot of people, but that's just my little opinion about it and my only complaint about the book. Otherwise, I loved the book. I loved the characters. I loved how all the characters related, and I loved the twists that keep coming all the way through the end of the book.
I was gonna film something as it was happening, as I was reading, I should say, but I decided that was probably too much of a spoiler and I don't want to spoil it. And I ended up finishing. I don't know how I feel about this one. I feel there were some certain elements that felt very similar to other books that I've read by her. So it didn't really feel like anything new. And so I don't want to knock the book because someone reading this for the first time, this might be a very huge plot twisty type book that they can't believe. I don't feel anything threw me too much by surprise. And as usual, she had several plot twists going towards the end. But that's all I'll say. I'll say more maybe in final thoughts after we wrap up both Freida books that we're reading. Speaking of, I am going to now jump into One by One by Freida, and Amanda's doing Do You Remember, I'm pretty sure. At least that was the plan. I will let you guys know after I've read this one. I don't remember much about what it's about. And as I've said before, I love going into her books without knowing too much. I think Amanda called it like a locked room mystery type, but she didn't seem very excited about this one. We don't always agree on Freida's books, or, you know, sometimes we'll see things from a different perspective. So maybe I'll end up liking it. Maybe I'll agree with Amanda, but I will check in after I've read some.
So the next book I'm going to be reading for this vlog, I'm going to close The Tenant out here. Fantastic book. Thank you all should read it. But the next book I'm reading is Do You Remember? And this is a book that Jen's already read in a previous vlog. And I will link our vlog where she read this book if you're interested in the description below. But I'm reading Do You Remember? And I've already started reading it. I'm currently on page 76 of 333 pages, so not quite a third of the way through yet, but I have just enjoyed this book as well. I don't know what it is about Freida books, but they're so bingeable. I just flew through The Tenant and then went straight into binging another Freida book, so I couldn't help myself. Downloaded the Kindle book for Do You Remember? I hate purchasing Kindle ebooks. I just do, or ebooks in general, not necessarily just Kindle. I just hate spending money on those for several reasons, and I'm not going to get into it here, but I did because I couldn't find it on the Libby app. I couldn't find a physical copy at the libraries. I couldn't find it on the Barnes & Noble Nook app, which is my preferred reading app, actually, is the Barnes & Noble Nook. So if it's something on the Nook and something on the Kindle, I always download it to my Nook app. The only place I could find it was either ordering it from Amazon and getting a physical copy, which I would have had to wait for like 3 or 4 days to get in the mail, or just downloading the ebook. So I went ahead and purchased the ebook to download. And that's just the facts and the very long story behind me getting this ebook. I started reading, I'm already on page 76, and just really enjoying the book. I'm sucked right in. I am dying to know what has happened to this woman. So in case you missed Jen's explanation in a previous vlog, you're following a woman who wakes up one day and it's like 7 years in the future. So she wakes up in her apartment and she remembers being engaged to this man that she's just so in love with, and they had a little bit of wine, and she wakes up and everything's a little different. And she's like, oh my gosh, did we get drunk and remodel our bathroom last night? She's in the same house, but the house is super updated, remodeled. It's just very different. And she notices like she has a few like wrinkles and fine lines forming on her face. So she's looking different and she's just super confused. And then she finds out that the man that she woke up next to is not the man she was engaged to 7 years ago. And this new guy that she wakes up next to ends up telling her he's her husband, and she was in an accident a year ago and she has some permanent brain damage, which makes her not retain memories. So she's all confused and she doesn't know her life. She doesn't know the people in it, and she's trying to figure out what has gone wrong. It seems like she's trapped in this house. They don't want her going anywhere. She's kind of locked in and supervised all the time. So she's getting really irritated with that. And I'm just dying to know what actually has happened. Like, there's a teaser in here of like it seems like you're going to get some answers, but it's really early in the book and I have a feeling that it's not going to work out and you're not going to get the answers that you're wanting right now, because I still have 75% of the book left to go. So I'm just like anxious to get to what has happened to this girl. I really want to know. I don't know how Freida does it, but she makes me invested in these characters where like I need to figure out this puzzle and what's going on and what the twists are going to be. So I'm going to keep reading and I will be back later with some more updates.
All right, I didn't get too far, and something that feels a little different in this one is she has chapters that say anonymous, and I'm assuming it's one of the characters in the book. I've gone through 2 anonymous chapters and it's like a background for somebody, you don't know who. And I feel it's tied to the prologue. You never know with Freida. Maybe it's not even a character that is the 6 that you're seeing, but it's already much different than I feel the most recent books I've read from Freida. I don't think it's anything like any of the books that I can think of right now from Freida, but I'm enjoying it as compared to The Tenant so far. I feel already absorbed in these characters, and you're mostly seeing, though, Claire and Anonymous. And I don't think Anonymous is Claire, but you never know with Freida. You never know. You have Claire and Noah. You have Jack and his girlfriend, and then Claire's best friend, and the new guy. Her name's Lindsay. And Lindsay's brand new boyfriend, Warner. They're going on a trip all together, but Claire and Noah don't seem to be getting along. There's a lot of tension, and you know that basically this premise is they're all going there and they're gonna get murdered, I guess, one by one, or go missing one by one, something along those lines. And I'm sure the anonymous chapters are maybe the person who is doing the murdering or the whatever they're doing to make people disappear. So that's the gist so far. I'm gonna head back in. I will be back with more thoughts.
Hey y'all, I've been sitting here reading and I'm not very much further along the book, so this is not a book update, but I wanted to ask you all about e-readers because I use my tablet. But my complaint about the tablet is it's heavy and it gets uncomfortable to hold after a long period of time. And I've noticed it recently a lot. It's been bothering me a lot because when I traveled to see my family over the holidays, I only took my tablet because all of the books that I plan on reading, I had access to the ebooks. So there was no need for me to take my physical books. It just got very heavy and cumbersome and hard to hold and read on for a long period of time. So I started looking into some e-readers and I'm kind of leading towards the Cobra. I'm kind of leading towards the Kobo. I am not really an Amazon girly. I don't really like Amazon. I try not to buy books from them, especially because I like supporting local physical stores that I can walk into and buy books. I don't have Kindle Unlimited. I never have had Kindle Unlimited, and I don't really see a need for it when you have Libby and you have Hoopla, and I have NetGalley and Edelweiss and all of the other ways to get ebooks. So I don't really see a need for Kindle Unlimited. So I don't have Kindle Unlimited. But I just was thinking with an e-reader, it might be much easier to hold. And I like the Kobo because the Kobo color has buttons on the side. Don't pay attention to the dogs barking, please. Like I've tried to get them to stop, but they keep playing and disrupting my video. So I've been looking into e-readers and I'm leaning towards the Kobo color one. I like a couple of things about it. It is in color, so it's not a bright, vibrant tablet color, but it is like a paper white shades of color. So you do have color, so you can see the covers of the books very easily. There are some good features as far as switching back and forth between the books and if you take notes or highlight things. There's a stylus you can buy, which I'm probably not even considering buying the stylus because it's $70 and I don't really annotate books, so that's not a feature that is very, very appealing to me. But it has buttons on the side and I really like using the buttons to switch the page. Now I know with this, you know, I can hold it and I can swipe to switch the page or I can scroll to switch the page, but it just seems like if I could hold with one hand like this and just switch the buttons, push the buttons to switch the pages, it would just be so much easier. It also has some convenient things that I saw on YouTube video, like adjusting the brightness. You just swipe the side of the page to adjust the brightness up and down. So that's really nice and convenient. Of course, you can switch from like a white background to a black background and so forth. There's all those options. But let me know what you all think because the Kobos are $220 and that's without the stylus. That's just the basic Kobo color. And that just seems like a lot of money to me to buy an e-reader when I have this that kind of does the same thing, even though it's not really as convenient. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you have an e-reader, what do you read your ebooks on, and what are the pros and cons you feel like of the e-readers? Because I really need some help here trying to figure this out.
Right, checking in, and I still feel very invested in finding out what's happening, who's behind what's happening. I'm trying not to say specifics because I don't want to obviously spoil. I don't really have a theory as to who the anonymous posts chapters are or what's necessarily happening, because I know with Freida, it always ends up being something a little crazy and out there and several twists. So I'm not sure. And I'm curious why Amanda didn't like it. I don't remember why she said she didn't like it. But right now, unless the ending doesn't go very well, I'm liking it. I don't have anything that I'm really irritated with. I think why I might feel that way is in the Tenant, something that bothered me is the beginning part when you're seeing it from, and I forget the main character's name already, but I feel like they kept rehashing the same things again and again and again. And everything he was irritated with their tenant and how much he hated her, how he didn't really want her in the house anymore and his life is falling apart. I feel like that went on for too long or something. And you were just in his head seeing all these things that were going wrong and all these things that he's attributing to the tenant. And I was losing interest because it just felt really repetitive. In this one, because there are 6 different characters and there's more going on, a little more diverse of a story. So I feel like it's more interesting then. So it might be just because of me reading this in tandem with the other book, or I should say read it right after the other book. Maybe that's it. I'm going to read some more, and I don't have too much more to go. A lot of secrets have come out that I don't know what that means for what's happening. I'll be back if there's something to react to or there's more thoughts before I do final thoughts. So you may see me soon.
All right, y'all. Time for final thoughts. I hope the lighting is okay. I do have my curtains open because it is sunny. It is extremely cold outside. I think it's 5 degrees right now, the last I looked, and 0 degrees feels like -13, so it actually feels like negative degrees outside right now. So it's super cold. Like, I'm not looking forward to opening my door to let my dogs out, and I know my dogs are not looking forward to going outside today, but it is sunny. So that is welcomed because the last 3 days it's been very drizzly, snowy, dark, whiteout conditions, blizzard conditions almost here. So we did get maybe 6-7 inches of snow, I think, total. It wasn't pouring down really hard, but it was the very light little snows that make things hard to see. Anyways, so in moral of the story is I like the sunshine and I wanted to open my curtains to let the sunshine. But anyways, I have finished Do You Remember? And this is a good psychological thriller. It's the typical Freida McFadden book. There are twists and turns. There are things you don't see coming. There are twists even in the epilogue. I really enjoyed them both. It's kind of hard to compare because they are on 2 completely different topics, but they both sucked me in. They both were compulsive reads. They both delivered twists that I didn't see coming, and they both leave you with a satisfied feeling at the end as far as people getting justice and getting what they deserve. So that is everything that I like about the Freida McFadden thrillers. I feel like all her thrillers follow that same outline. They tick all of those boxes, all of them do, no matter how different they are, and no matter which ones I like more than others. I just think they're all fantastic, and I highly recommend them if you like psychological domestic thrillers. I think they are great. Not all of her books are domestic thrillers, but I would say the majority of them are. Of course, her famous The Housemaid series is a domestic thriller, so I mean that's kind of what should put her on the map. I really really look forward to the next book that Freida puts out. I know Freida has been getting some criticism for putting out books too quickly or putting out books too fast. She did address it in an interview she did, and she said, listen, all of these books, I have my thoughts for these books going months and months and months before I actually sit down to write them. So she already has the ideas in her head, and she sits down and just focuses for months on writing the books, and she can put them out very quickly. That is not something that bothers me at all. I think the more books Freida puts out, the better. I don't know why she would slow down. It's obviously working for her. She obviously has a mind to write these books. She wants to get these books out. She has this idea and she runs with it. And if she can put them out in 3 months, good. If it takes her a year, good. So I just feel like the more books she puts out, the better for me, because it's more books that I get to read from her. So in summary, enjoyed both of these books. I can't wait for the next things that Freida puts out.
So I finished, and I don't feel like, I don't know if that's why Amanda didn't like it, but I didn't really like the ending. It took away from the book, in my opinion. Definitely twists. It's just, and everything I want to say about it, I can't really say because it's giving away the details. So I gotta text her about it or call her and talk to her about it, because I think it might be the same reason why she didn't like it, or maybe she didn't like the whole thing. I don't know, but I don't know. I'm gonna sit on it, think about it, and I'll be back with some final thoughts for both the Tenant and One by One. So see you soon. All right, some final thoughts on One by One, and I had read the Tenant on my tablet. I very much appreciate being able to read the Tenant early, don't get me wrong, but I feel I was a little let down with the Tenant, and between the two of these, I would have to say One by One is my favorite of the two. Even though you saw my last video saying I didn't really like the ending, I feel I went through a majority of this book being really sucked in and riveted, and didn't really get irritated or agitated by anything that was happening. I was desperately wanting to know what happened. I may not have been too happy about what happened at the end. I didn't really like the ending all that much. But the Tenant, I feel, really kept, when you're reading Blake's story, part one, I felt went on forever. And it just seemed to be repeating itself. And maybe Freida was trying to make a point of how miserable Blake was being made with the situation he was in with this Tenant. And maybe because of the dedication she had at the beginning, maybe she was also making a point of how it feels to have like a roommate or tenant that really gets on your nerves or tries you, and it just makes you feel a certain way. I don't know. I haven't had that experience. The times I had a roommate, I usually was friends with the person, and I don't know if this was just trying to give you the feeling of being supremely frustrated. And so I don't know. I just wasn't as into the Tenant. It was an interesting ending, but I don't feel it was surprising, or I may not have guessed it fully, but I don't feel like it was a huge shock. I don't feel that it was something, I think your everyday Freida reader would not have been shocked by the twist in the Tenant. One by One, I feel, even though you only got really two perspectives for the majority of the book, the Anonymous and Claire, I loved having that dichotomy of who is Anonymous, what is going on, who is this person, trying to think, okay, is it this person, is it this person? And then you see from Claire's perspective of being in this group of people going on this trip, and one by one something is happening to those in her group, and you're finding out secrets. And I felt so much more invested in that story, especially after you were just getting, for the most part, Blake for a very long part of the book. And maybe that's why, maybe I do like more having different perspectives. I know when it's too many, if they would have done each perspective and one by one, like 6 individuals, and you had to see it from each perspective, I think it would have been more convoluted. So I do like how she set up one by one. The ending I just felt was, I know she tends to be far-fetched, and I don't want to go too much into the ending because I don't want to ruin it or give too much speculation on it. But I don't know, something was bothering me about it. I think because it is far-fetched, and though that is something she does, I don't know, something was just bothering me about it is all I'm gonna say. I still need to text Amanda about it. She is currently reading the second of her books. So I definitely enjoyed reading both. It's not like I didn't like completely the Tenant. I think that it just felt repetitive in the beginning, and then you started to get more of the story after that. And I ended up enjoying both. I mean, Freida to me is most of the time going to be 4 stars each. I think a couple of them I gave 3 stars, but it was still solid books to me that I have enjoyed reading, and I would definitely recommend Freida to any thriller reader out there. I think they're worth reading. I think it's like mind candy almost. So I am excited that we got a chance to read The Tenant. It doesn't come out till May 12th. So that is a few months away. I don't know what we're gonna do because I'm sure she's gonna have one come out in the fall. So maybe around May we will hopefully get an arc or something. If she doesn't have one come out, that's gonna be very depressing. We do have, I think, 2 or 3 other Freida books that we haven't read that are older, like from 2015, 2016. So we can always do another vlog finishing the rest of the books we have not read. Maybe we'll do that in May. Thanks for watching as we read more Freida books. Tell us what your thoughts are. Are you going to be checking out The Tenant? Are you a Freida fan? Let us know in the comments. And until next time.